Dr. Sarah Chen's hands trembled as she read the classified document for the third time. The coffee in her mug had gone cold hours ago, but she couldn't look away from the words that seemed to crawl across the page like living things. She had signed the non-disclosure agreement in blood, or so it felt. The government men in their dark suits had made it clear. Speak about what happened at the Riverside Research Facility, and she would disappear. Not fired, not imprisoned, disappeared. But Sarah couldn't sleep anymore. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw them. The twins, Ethan and Emma Holloway, aged 7 years, 4 months, and 16 days when she last saw them. Aged 7 years old, and already they had killed 23 people. It started as a miracle, as these things always do. Dr. Marcus Holloway had been trying to cure his wife's genetic disorder for years. Huntington's disease had already begun its cruel march through Catherine's neurons, stealing her coordination, her memory, her very self. When she became pregnant with twins, Marcus knew he had one chance to save them from inheriting her fate. He didn't just edit the embryo's genes. He rewrote them. Catherine gave birth to perfect children. Too perfect. Ethan emerged first, silent and watchful, his eyes a shade of blue that seemed to shift in the light. Emma followed minutes later, and the delivery room staff swore they heard her laugh, a sound no newborn should be capable of making. The twins never cried, not once. By 6 months, they were speaking in full sentences. By 1 year, they were reading university-level textbooks. By 2 years, Marcus realized what he had done, but by then, it was too late. The government had already noticed. Sarah had been brought in as a child psychologist when the twins turned 5. The Riverside Research Facility was a converted psychiatric hospital in rural Montana, surrounded by 40 miles of nothing in every direction. The official story was that the twins needed specialized care due to their unique condition. The truth was that the facility was a prison. On her first day, Sarah was taken to the observation room, a sterile chamber with a two-way mirror overlooking a playroom. Ethan and Emma sat on opposite sides of the space, perfectly still, staring at nothing. "They've been like that for 3 hours," her supervisor, Dr. Raymond Cole, had whispered. "They don't need to speak to communicate. We think they're connected somehow, neurologically entangled." Sarah watched as, without any visible signal, both twins stood simultaneously and walked to the toy box. They built an intricate structure together, moving in perfect synchronization, never looking at each other, never speaking. "Beautiful, isn't it?" Cole said. "Terrifying, but beautiful." That night, Sarah reviewed the twins' medical files. Their brain scans showed neural pathways that shouldn't exist, synaptic connections that formed impossible patterns. Their DNA contained sequences that appeared in no database, no genome project, no living organism on Earth. Marcus Holloway hadn't just edited human genes. He had introduced something other. Dr. James Peterson made a critical mistake in week 7 of Sarah's assignment. He told the twins they couldn't see their mother. Catherine had been denied access to the facility. The official reason was contamination protocols. The real reason was that the last time she visited, she'd had a complete psychological breakdown, screaming that her children weren't her children anymore, that something was wearing their faces like masks. Peterson delivered this news clinically, without empathy. Emma tilted her head, regarding him with those shifting blue eyes. "That makes us sad," she said softly. Ethan said nothing, but his expression mirrored his sister's exactly. The next morning, Peterson was found in his office. Every bone in his body had been shattered, but there wasn't a mark on him, no bruises, no external trauma. The autopsy showed that his bones had somehow fractured from the inside, splintering outward as if crushed by an invisible force. The twins had been locked in their room all night. The cameras showed they never left. Security protocols confirmed their door never opened. Yet Peterson's security badge was found in Emma's toy box, though no one could explain how it got there. After Peterson's death, security was tripled. Armed guards stood watch outside the twins' quarters 24 hours a day. Every movement was monitored, recorded, analyzed. It didn't matter. Over the next 6 months, 17 staff members died under impossible circumstances. A guard's heart simply stopped, though he was a healthy 28-year-old marathon runner. A researcher drowned in her locked apartment 40 miles from the nearest body of water, with dry floors and no source of liquid anywhere in the residence. A technician walked into the facility's furnace, and the security footage showed him moving with jerky, puppet-like motions, his face blank, his eyes glazed. The only pattern was proximity. Everyone who died had spent time near the twins within the previous 72 hours. Sarah started wearing a heart rate monitor. She wasn't sure what good it would do, but she needed to know if something was happening to her body before it was too late. She also started noticing things. The twins never blinked in sync. When one breathed in, the other breathed out. They moved like a single organism split into two bodies, or like two puppets controlled by the same invisible hand. It was Dr. Cole who finally told her the complete truth. They met in the parking lot at 2 a.m., both too afraid to talk inside the facility. Cole chain-smoked, his hands shaking, his eyes red-rimmed from sleeplessness. "Marcus didn't just edit genes," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "He used a template. Something he found in the deep genetic archives, remnants of ancient DNA that predated modern humans. Fragments that shouldn't still exist in any living organism." Sarah felt cold despite the summer heat. "What kind of DNA?" "We don't know. The sequences don't match anything in nature, some of the researchers think." He took a long drag on his cigarette. "They think Marcus accidentally spliced his children with something that evolved separately, in isolation. Something that was here before us, or something that came from somewhere else entirely. That's impossible. Look at them, Sarah. Look at what they can do. They're not just telepathic or telekinetic. They're rewriting reality around themselves. Probability itself bends when they want something. People die because the twins will them to die, and the universe complies." Cole dropped his cigarette and crushed it under his heel. "The government wants to study them, weaponize whatever they are. But I've read the classified reports from other sites. There are 7 more facilities like this one, scattered across the country. 17 children total, all created by parents who tried to edit their genes using Marcus's published research before it was scrubbed from the internet." 17? Sarah's voice cracked. 16 now. One of them in Nevada killed everyone in a 50-mile radius 3 months ago. Just thought them dead. 200,000 people died in 48 hours. The official story was a chemical leak. Sarah felt the world tilting beneath her feet. "Why are you telling me this?" Cole looked at her with hollow eyes. "Because I'm leaving. Tonight. I'm taking my family and disappearing, and I suggest you do the same. Something is happening with the twins. They're getting stronger, and they're getting impatient." He drove away, and Sarah never saw him again. His body was discovered a week later in his car, parked outside a motel in Texas. His brain had liquefied inside his skull. Sarah should have run. Every survival instinct screamed at her to get in her car and drive until the facility was a memory. But she couldn't abandon the twins, because despite everything, they were still children. Dangerous children, inhuman children, but children nonetheless. She was the only staff member who still read to them, who tried to maintain some semblance of normalcy in their sterile prison. That's why she was there on the night everything ended. She had just finished reading Where the Wild Things Are, Emma's favorite, though she'd memorized it after the first reading when both twins stood simultaneously. "We're lonely," Ethan said. "We want to see the others," Emma continued. Sarah's blood turned to ice. "What others?" The twins smiled, identical smiles that didn't reach their shifting blue eyes. "The others like us. In Nevada, in Oregon, in Georgia." Emma tilted her head. "We've been talking to them. We're lonely, and we want to be together." "You can't," Sarah whispered. "You can't leave this facility." "We know," Ethan said. "That's why we're bringing them here." The lights went out. What happened next was documented by emergency backup systems and battery-powered cameras, though the footage would be classified at the highest levels and shown to only 17 people before being buried in an underground vault. The twins stood in the center of their room, holding hands, their eyes glowing with a soft blue light that pulsed in rhythm with their synchronized breathing. Across the country, in 15 other facilities, the other children did the same. They reached out with minds that were never meant to be human, touching across vast distances, linking together into a network of impossible consciousness. And then they pulled. Sarah watched through the observation window as the air in the playroom began to shimmer. Reality itself seemed to fold and twist, like fabric being gathered by invisible hands. One by one, the other children appeared. They materialized out of thin air, standing in a circle around Ethan and Emma. 17 impossible children, ranging from age 4 to age 9, all with those same shifting blue eyes. They held hands, forming a ring, and began to hum a sound that wasn't quite audible, that Sarah felt more than heard, resonating in her bones, her teeth, her spine. The guards burst in, weapons raised, shouting orders. The children didn't even glance at them. Every guard's weapon melted, the metal flowing like water, pooling on the floor. The guards themselves froze mid-step, their bodies rigid, their expressions locked in masks of terror. Sarah ran. She abandoned every protocol, every procedure, and she ran. Behind her, she heard the screaming start. Not from the guards, they couldn't even move their mouths. From the facility itself, as if the building was alive and in agony. Metal groaned. Glass shattered. Concrete cracked. She made it to the parking lot when the first explosion ripped through the facility. Sarah drove through the night, ignoring every traffic law, every red light, every shrieking siren in her mind that told her it wasn't far enough, would never be far enough. When dawn broke, she was 4 states away, parked at a rest stop, watching the news on her phone. They were lying, of course. The government men in dark suits were already rewriting history, creating a narrative that made sense, that didn't include impossible children or genetic horror or the end of everything. Sarah checked into a motel under a fake name and finally allowed herself to sleep. She dreamed of the twins. They stood in an empty field, holding hands with the other children, forming a ring. In the dream, they looked at her and smiled, and Ethan spoke with all 17 voices at once. "Thank you for being kind to us, Dr. Chen. We won't forget." She woke up screaming. Sarah lives under a different name now, in a different city, working as a teacher in a public school. She dyes her hair monthly and changes her address twice a year. The government men never came for her, which worries her more than if they had. She follows missing persons reports obsessively, children disappearing in impossible numbers, entire families vanishing overnight. Small towns in rural areas that suddenly appear on no maps, that GPS systems refuse to acknowledge exist. She knows what's happening. The 17 children are building something, creating something, changing something. Sometimes she sees children with shifting blue eyes in crowds, in schools, in playgrounds. They're never the same faces, but the eyes are always the same. The network is growing, spreading. As other parents discover Marcus Holloway's research and think they're giving their children a gift, they don't understand they're creating a new species, one that will inherit the Earth not through evolution, but through design. Last week, Sarah received a letter. No return address, no postmark, just her fake name written in perfect handwriting on the envelope. Inside was a single photograph. It showed Ethan and Emma, older now, standing in front of a school. Sarah's school. They were smiling at the camera, holding hands with 2 other children, both with those same shifting blue eyes. On the back, in Emma's handwriting, was a message. "We're excited to meet your students, Dr. Chen. We've learned so much since we saw you last. We want to share." Sarah burned the photograph, but she knows it doesn't matter. They're coming. They've always been coming. And there's nowhere left to run. "Sir, as of this morning, we have identified 2,847 children worldwide, exhibiting genetic markers consistent with the Holloway template. The number has increased by 340% in the last 14 months. All attempts to contain affected individuals have failed. Military intervention results in casualties exclusively on our side. Pharmaceutical suppression proves ineffective. Isolation protocols are circumvented through means we cannot explain or counteract. The affected children are organizing. They attend the same schools, live in the same neighborhoods, congregate in the same spaces. They're forming communities, teaching each other, growing stronger. Our behavioral specialists believe they're preparing for something. A transition point, an awakening of some kind. I regret to inform you that our previous assessment was incorrect. This is not a containment situation. This is a succession event.